I'd like to read the donations that are in the consent calendar. We have a $150 donation from Larry Marr for the OOMS 8th grade leaf raking community service project. We have a donation of 30 binders from Colette Cook. We have a wheeled storage cart of $2,000 value from Demco with the business development rep Brandon Blanke. And then we have a $500 donation from Fidelity Charitable to Netherwood Knoll Reading Program. So as always, we are very appreciative of all of the donations that we receive. Katie, could you call the roll on the consent calendar?
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. All right, moving to information items. We'll start with public comment. We do have a few people registered for public comment. I'll call those names in order, and then if there are any others, we'll have an opportunity for you to speak as well. I'm going to start with reading our policy on public comment. So District Policy 180.05 provides an opportunity for the public to address the board. We value the public comment period and feedback from our stakeholders. To comply with open meetings law and to ensure consistency, public comment will have the following parameters. Public comment is scheduled for 15 minutes. Speakers will have 3 minutes each in which to make their comments. Ms. Katie Heitz will signal the speaker when their time is up, and the board will not comment after each speaker. We'll reserve any discussion to items that are on the agenda. Our speakers, as always, are welcome to stay for the entire meeting. Next steps following public comment may include referral to the appropriate administrator for follow-up or placement of the matter on a future board agenda. So we'll start with Tenzin Hollenbeck. You may come up to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Tenzin Hollenbeck, and I live at 5423 Lost Woods Court. I'm a 9th grade student at the Oregon High School. I've been part of choir classes since I was a 3rd grader at Brooklyn Elementary, and I've been a part of the Oregon School District and community my entire life and have valued each music class I've been throughout the years. Studies have shown that music classes have a big influence on kids and can help by enhancing cognitive skills, improve academic performance, creativity, emotional well-being, and more. I spent 2 years at the Oregon Middle School, both of which I took Miss Ratman's choir class, where I became a better singer every day. But how am I supposed to grow to my full potential if my teacher was going back and forth between 2 schools every single day? Another thing that I realized while in middle school was that both band and orchestra had weekly 20-plus minute small groups to practice and grow at their instrument of choice. As a choir student, we had small groups every other week for exactly 15 minutes. I value my learning. I value the time that is given to me to grow as a singer and find my full potential. But without money, time, or resources to do so, we are declining music students to become the best versions of themselves. I value the relationships I made through these classes, and my electives are just as important as everyone else's. From music to art to sports, they all deserve to have the same amount of attention so that we can make our students well-rounded and give them the space to grow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mira Young. Oh, Mina, I'm sorry. And Mina, if you could just state your name and address, please, for us. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mina Young. I live at 448 Butternut Drive. I am a freshman at Oregon High School. I have been doing music since the very first general music class in kindergarten, and now I'm in high school percussion ensemble. Music has been such a valuable experience for me. For giving me a creative outlet and letting me pursue something I'm actually interested in, music is genuinely my favorite part of school. It makes me feel very disappointed that the school district is trying to cut the music program smaller with removing small group lessons. I started at RCI in 5th grade during the online year. Large group classes were pretty much impossible, so we had small group classes. These classes taught me the basic of music and how band works. In the middle school, we had large and small group classes. Don't get me wrong, large group band class was a great experience. It teaches teamwork because it takes working together with so many people to do something so cohesive. But small groups were such a valuable part of my time at the middle school. Especially as a percussionist, small groups were essential to learning the technique for so many instruments. Also, large group band music is frequently not written by percussionists, so we have to settle things that don't challenge us to support the wind ensemble. We focused on our own path in small groups and learned harder music outside of class to help us learn the best way we could. Having small group was absolutely essential to letting us get above and beyond in our learning as non-wind players. At the high school, I cannot stress enough how grateful I am that percussion has its separate class. Getting to work with the upperclassmen and learning from them, as well as both of our amazing teachers, is such a cool experience. Yet another point I would like to make is connecting back to how band helps with teamwork. Music has been proven in several studies to help education. If you look back in my middle school grades, where I was pulled out of class for small groups, I passed every single class with flying colors. There was no issue for me in regards to falling behind. Here's a quote from Columbia University that further proves what I'm trying to say. Learning music can improve students' cognitive performance and provide a valuable motivation. A study of 147 children published in the Frontiers of Neuroscience found evidence that studying music in structured classes led to improvements in language-based reasoning, short-term memory, planning, and the ability to focus over a period of 18 months. Earlier research conducted on 117 fourth graders in Montreal showed that 3 years of piano instruction significantly enhanced young people's self-esteem. End quote. If you would like to discuss music education further with me, feel free to send me an email, miniyoung@oregonSD.net, or chat with me after this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Maggie Lofgren.
Hi, I'm Maggie Lofgren. I live at 199 South Oak Street. I've been teaching at RCI and OMS since 2018, and I've been a middle school teacher since 2014. I'm also a mom of two, and my oldest will be entering kindergarten this fall. Since the beginning of my career, I've seen the negative effects of cell phones and social media. I believe that smartphones can be directly linked to the increase in bullying, mental health crises, and lowered academic performance that we're seeing right now in our student population. I appreciate the district's effort to alleviate the issues of cell phones, but I really think that the current proposal is not enough. I recommend that we revise the policy to enact a phone-free school day for grades K through 12. If students must place their devices in a caddy at the start of each class period, I anticipate disruptions and unnecessary power struggles. Currently at OMS, I watch students pull out their phones seconds before the bell rings, desperate to scroll an app in the short passing time we provide. When I walk around the building during the school day, I see countless students sneaking moments on their phones instead of completing their academic work. When students come to my class, I want to ask them, how are you doing? How was your weekend? I don't want to fight for their attention, as many will struggle to place their device in yet another caddy. Once I am teaching, I will be repeating myself over and over again as their attention remains on the nearby device that constantly steals their focus and their peace. During lunch, passing time, and recess, give them a chance to connect face-to-face with their peers. When they rush back to the screen, I fear they will completely miss out on the short time that they have to build relationships with the people right next to them. Give them a chance to recognize their addiction and feel the difference for themselves, because yes, it is an addiction, with effects similar to those substances and activities that we would never allow in our schools. When they feel bored, anxious, or sad, give them a chance to develop healthy coping mechanisms besides fleeing to TikTok, Instagram, mobile games, and so on. Please consider revising the current proposal and give our students a full day of no phones or devices. I know we will see positive results. Thanks.
Thank you, Maggie. Jen Hans, you're up next.
Hi there, I'm Jen Hans. I live on Vineyard Avenue in Fitchburg. I have 3 kids in the district, kindergarten, 2nd grade, and 5th grade. And I can tell you that most families that have kids my ages are hoping for a stricter cell phone policy. We're hoping that we can count on the school to be part of the village, because right now we're on the cusp of having to introduce this technology.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Are there any other speakers for public comment? Any other speakers for public comment? One more time, any speakers? All right. Thank you to all of our speakers. Next up, OEA report. I don't believe we have anyone from OEA here tonight. All right, so we will move to student report. Lee, you may have the mic.
Hello. Hello everyone. My name is Lee Bruchot. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a junior here. With spring just beginning, there's been a lot of excitement and activity around the high school. In the past 2 weeks, the orchestra, choir, and band held their concerts, and many students who performed exceptionally well at Solana Ensemble are now preparing to compete at the state level. Outside of the music department, spring sports are kicking off with about a third of our student body participating. Many of our co-curricular organizations are also in the midst of their competition seasons. Robotics, FBLA, FCCLA, FFA, Skills USA, and Model UN have all recently competed and earned strong results. In addition, OHS hosted an instructional rounds this past Thursday. We welcomed educators from UW-Madison, Mount Horeb High School, Milton High School, Madison East High School, and others to collaborate with our teachers and examine the impact of their work in our classrooms. Thank you for your time, and thanks for letting me update you all.
Thank you, Lee. All right, next up we have action items. We'll start with action item C1, Policy 441, Electronic Communication Devices.
Thank you. Yeah, I will actually talk about item 1 and 2 at the same time because they are linked. And just to introduce, the administrative team and the board have been doing a tremendous amount of research into the best practices, done a deep dive in case studies, actual experimental research data, recommended best practices, and obviously there is significant growing data that shows cell phones have a negative impact on the health and well-being of our kids and adolescents. And that's both at home and in school. In school, we know that cell phones distract from readiness for learning and impact relationships that they have in school. And so while the committee discussed a myriad of potential approaches, the revised policy is aimed at balancing the needs of all of our learners. And so the policy committee is recommending that policy 411, not 441. No, actually it is 441, isn't it? Okay, I had written the wrong thing. Policy 441 is retired because the language has been rolled into the updated policy 771. And further, we recommend that an assessment of the efficacy of the updated policy 771 be assessed, including educator input, to be done in December or January of this year so that we can reassess whether we have taken it far enough or whether we haven't taken it far enough. So that's the recommendation coming from policy. Gina, would you like to add anything to that?
I think that was a great summary. Thank you.
So we'll start with voting on policy 441, and I understand the board has to vote to retire that policy. So my assumption, Mary, is that your recommendation coming from policy is to do just that, to retire 441, and we since that's coming from policy, we don't need a second. So that motion we'll consider that motion on the table. Is there any discussion around the retirement of policy 441, electronic communication devices? All right, Katie, please call the roll.
Dr. Lakuta? Yes. Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Flanagan? Sorry.
He's not here.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0. So policy 441 has been retired. All right, moving on to policy 771, electronic communications, cellular phones. That we'll consider that motion on the table from the policy committee.
Great. Troy, I'd like to make 3 amendments to that policy.
All right, let's do those
One
one
at a
by
time?
one, please.
Great.
Go ahead.
Amendment 1 is to the motion 771052. Instead of during the entire school day, it would be all day. The reason for that is just keeping the verbiage consistent throughout the policy and into the administrative guidelines. So off and away all day instead of during the entire school day.
Okay, so Heather's offered a motion to revise language within 7710502, essentially revising entire school to all. Is there a second to that motion? Leslie with a second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adjust that language. So we'll vote on that. Again, this isn't voting on the policy, this is just voting on amending the language that's on the floor.
I have a quick comment.
Yeah.
Was there interest in defining what all day means, or are we comfortable with that being left all day and understanding that meaning?
That is an additional. That's an additional amendment. I'm just going one by one so that it doesn't get caught up in. Is it not in the same section? It is in the same section. I'm happy to double it up, but again, was just trying to keep the lowest common denominator so we could get through these one by one. But
So Heather,
stay tuned.
I think it'd be fair to offer your upcoming
Sure.
amendment in terms
As a
of
sneak peek?
discussion on this one. Yep.
Sure. Spoiler alert. So then the amendment that relates to that is in 771052. That would then define, as Anna was saying, this means the first bell to the last bell, including during lunch, recess, and passing times. That's as it relates to pre-K or 4K to 6. And just as an FYI, that's the language that's in the administrative guidelines. So it's just bringing that into the policy. And then in parallel with 771053, it would say this is for 7 through 12. Academic time means all time the students are scheduled to be in class, including connections in study hall. So I don't know, Troy, how you want to vote. If we can knock that out in one amendment, great. But Yep.
I think because we're focused on 0502, we're focused on pre-K through 6. Could you just restate that definition for this motion?
I'm just gonna double it and see what happens.
Point of order.
Okay.
I think if you're willing and you don't need to, it might be helpful to withdraw your first motion, and then you can just do one motion to amend 77105.2, and we'll do that first.
I'm officially withdrawing my initial motion. It's not how I did it in the dress rehearsal, but we'll go forth. So I'm withdrawing my original motion, amendment, and I'm making a brand new amendment as follows. For 771052, from the point of where it says must be off and away, we were taking out during the entire school day and putting all, or we're taking out during the entire school and putting all. And then it would add, this means the first bell to the last bell, including during lunch, recess, and passing times. Does anybody need me to read it in its entirety, or are we good? For students in grades pre-K through 6th grade, PWCD must be off and away all day. This means the first bell to the last bell, including during lunch, recess, and passing times.
Is there a second to that amendment? Second from Leslie. All right, any discussion? So I guess just to clarify or restate what you said, Heather, you've revised the language to all, but then you've really just brought the language that was in the administrative guidelines forward into the policy. Yep, Is there any discussion on that amendment? Okay, hearing none, let's call the roll.
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. So we have a partially revised policy in front of us.
Okay.
Heather, you had another motion or another
Continuing
amendment?
with the amendment train. So this is similar to what we just did, but it's now moving to 77013, and that is just, 7701053, and that is just adding the appropriate definition that's already in the administrative guidelines for 7 through 12, which would read, the whole thing would now read, for students in grades 7 through 12, PWCD must be off and away during academic time. Academic time means all the time the students are scheduled to be in class, including connections and study hall.
All right, motion by Heather. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Bush. Any discussion? Leslie?
So in thought, I agree with this. I agree that we need to define academic time in this, and I would be supportive of this. However, I strongly believe that we need to remove passing time and lunches at the middle school. Those are two really points that I feel like really strongly on, and like it's been brought up several times about, there's several middle schoolers that need to chill out and relax, and it helps them regulate, and all the studies show that that's absolutely completely opposite of what happens. And so I feel like that moment at lunch, and then they go back into a classroom and they have half of that first class period after lunch going back, they're dysregulated and they're not being able to focus. So I feel really, really strongly that we, at the middle school level, and I say stopping at middle school because I understand that high schoolers have many things going on. A lot of our high schoolers are going to jobs, they're going to sports, they're leaving for apprenticeships, things like that, that it's a little bit more tricky to define that for them because many of them are acting as adults in the capacity. So I have a hard time, continuing this on past at the high school level. However, I feel really, really strongly about the middle school level and lunches. So, but I would support it. I just feel really strongly about the other.
May I ask a point of clarification?
Yep.
So I heard Ms. Garrison say that you're bringing the guidelines language up to the policy. And so my wondering is the RAP study hall, because that is a study hall, but it's an exception in the guidelines. So I'm not sure if I'm just wondering if the intent is to change that or if the intent was to say study halls except for the RAP study hall.
Similar to Leslie, my wish list includes RAP, but it doesn't for this policy, and I have a whole bunch of thoughts that I've put into some notes for later as we're reviewing the whole policy, but for now, RAP is an exclusion of that, or it is not included in the study hall listing, so I don't know how to word that, but RAP would be per policy acceptable, per my personal belief unacceptable.
So for Heather's, the intent of Heather's amendment is to include a general study hall, but not to include
right.
the RAP study hall.
Correct.
In the off and away policy.
Could you reread that language?
I can, but Gina, do you need that to say something? To me, RAP wasn't regular study hall, which is why I read it the way that I did. So if it needs to, for clarification, to say something else, then I would need guidance on what that verbiage is.
Well, I think just from my understanding, we say in 77105.1 that it's subject to the admin guidelines below. So I would just want to be clear that 05.2 and 5.3 are subject to the guidelines below, because I know we talked about like having exceptions for things in health plans, like regulating blood sugar, right? So, it's a little bit hard when, guideline language is coming up into policy language. And I understand that, so I'm just trying to make sure everyone understands what this will look like, right? And so we could say that in 05.2, like subject to guidelines below in point 3. So I just want to make sure that when you're voting, you understand the intent of the language, and the intent of the language was to have like certain exceptions that are more outlined in the guidelines, like the health plan. So I'm assuming in 77105.2 that even though we say first bell to last bell, that there's still going to be that exception for health plans, for example. So I'm just trying to think about how to put that all together in a policy that makes sense for people reading it.
So I'm comfortable, if this is okay with you, in 771051, we do have that administrative guidelines below. I do not feel that we need to repeat it. For me, the point of adding the definitions, if you will, of the first bell to last bell and academic time is to strengthen the policy. And so for me to repeat administrative guidelines a second and a third time is unnecessary, but I do understand that there are administrative guideline exceptions, both for health plans and for RAP. So if that, gets penciled out in the admin guidelines, so be it. And if we review this next year and changes, where RAP wouldn't be involved, then we would need to, that's a policy update in any way in my mind. Or if somebody else weigh in.
Can I make a friendly amendment to your friendly amendment?
I didn't make a friendly amendment, but you can make a friendly amendment.
I think the intent, as I understand it, is to just bring the definition up. And so would it make more sense to have all day as defined as the first bell to the last bell, including during lunch, recess, and passing times? And then does that still allow for exceptions that are captured in the administrative guidelines below?
Yeah, Gina, I'm comfortable. If you're comfortable, I'm good with what I've put forth. If you're telling me that there is a appropriate way to have RAP listed in the administrative guidelines, because I do want it to be very clear. We've worked a long time on this, and there are, a lot of the changes that we've made will come in the administrative guidelines with the cubbies and things like that. And so for me, it is important to not have the definition be solely defined in the administrative guidelines, understanding that there are exceptions, right, that we've already had in the policy that will be there. So if you are struggling that RAP isn't singled out, then I guess I would like to hear more to make sure we make it work. But if you're thinking that you can have that RAP piece in the administrative guidelines and keep my motion as is, I'm good to let that ride and let people can vote as they want.
I just want to make sure when you're all voting that, as I'm reading it, 77105.1 says, except as specified in administrative guidelines below, that would apply then to all of 771.05, right? So I just want to make sure, because otherwise, if I just read it, it looks contradictory. So as long as I'm okay leaving the language, because I understand your point, Ms. Garrison. I just want to make sure when people are voting that it still reads that it's subject to the guidelines below.
I can't speak for others, but it's clear to me, and not to jump ahead, but there, in the way that I understood it, is 771051 is kind of the umbrella, right? And 771052 and 3 are the, underneath the umbrella. And so that's why it's okay to me. But again, I want other people need to weigh in via vote or comment.
I guess in, excuse me, in 77105.2, to your point about the exceptions, we're changing it to all day, but we're still relying on the administrative guidelines in that case to allow them for things like a health plan or as needed. And so I would see that same logic applying to 77105.3, that we're still allowing exceptions that are outlined in the administrative guidelines, but bringing up what is defining academic time. And because we've accepted that, accepted RAP and accepted health plans, et cetera, from these this policy, I'm comfortable with the language that Heather has proposed, given the language in point 1 above and the outline in the administrative guidelines.
Me too.
Any other discussion? Okay, so I want to go back to you, Leslie. You were opposing Heather's statement?
No, I'm not opposing Heather's statement. I don't think we go far enough. I feel that allowing middle schoolers to have their devices in passing time and in lunch takes away from the benefits that we get of not having them. I think that while there are well-meaning people that believe that that gives them a chance to relax and chill out and things like that, I think there are other ways to get to that. I think we can offer services like meditation rooms. We can offer other clubs, which we already do a really good job of, but I feel like that they could have that more face-to-face communication time, or we offer board games, or we offer different things like that, that they can actually spend time doing that as opposed to being on devices, which take away their attention at least 20 minutes into the time that they're not focused on it. It's taking away from their education that next class period, no matter what class period that is. That's what I'm opposed to. I agree with the administrative, or with the definition of academic time coming into that. I just am not thinking we go far enough with this,
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mary?
I just want to ask Gina, are you comfortable with the language in 771.051 as covering 052 and 053?
I am comfortable with that. I just want to make sure that everyone else reads it that way too, so that you can be an informed voter. And if not, if you don't read it that way, then I would like to make it clearer.
All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll vote on the amendment to 771.0503 as presented by Heather. Can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. So we now have a further revised policy in front of us. Is there any additional discussion?
I do. Okay. Yep.
All right, Heather.
I call this my amendment turkey, 3 in a row. Amendment 3 is to motion 771.051. Again, this is in the spirit of this being the kind of umbrella, if you will, which we just talked about. And basically, I am offering up that we strike the final sentence in that paragraph. PWCD should not be kept in pockets, jackets, or otherwise be on the student's person. So that would take that out and it would end in designated location. Just my thinking on this is, again, I want as strong of a policy as possible. And the longer, when we add those sentences, that sentence in, I understand that we don't want things in pockets or jackets. I fully agree with that. But because this is PWCD, which is not just a cell phone, I also don't want there to read parentheses, but backpacks are okay. And that was one of the things that we've talked about from the very beginning in, I don't know, July or August when we started this, was that the closer the item is to the student, the more difficult it is for them to resist, checking their phone or digging in their backpack. And so the idea of that is that the designated location is further defined in the administrative guidelines as the cubby or caddy piece of it. And so that's why it's just, to me, it's a stronger policy if it says it's powered off or and do not disturb and stored away in the designated location. I don't want to leave room for backpacks being a viable option for students to put their phone in.
Okay. Motion on the amendment by Heather. Is there a second to her language change? Yep, go ahead.
Heather, did you want that wording to be moved into the administrative guidelines under A, or did you just want to strike it?
I don't know that we have jurisdiction over the administrative guidelines, so my hope is that it somehow gets in there, but that's not part of my amendment.
Is there a second to Heather's motion?
Yeah, I would second.
Okay. Motion by Heather, second by Leslie, to strike the last sentence in 771.05.1. Is there further discussion?
I would just make a comment. I think this has been a very interesting exercise between what is umbrella and what's balcony and dance floor. We talk about that a lot, and there's been a lot of overlap, and I think that's been important in this conversation and these changes, because we've recognized a need to make some changes to the policy, and I think we've also learned that there's a need to make changes in how that is being implemented and how it's being played out within our schools. And so there needed to be sort of this larger dialogue and crossover between what's the intent and how is that being played out in the schools. So I agree with the fact that we are saying the what, and then the guidelines and the implementation is the how. And I think it gives, it puts that information in the correct place as far as I'm concerned, as far as the what and the how. So I support that amendment.
Any further discussion, Dr. Bush?
So I was just looking to see what the administrative guidelines actually say to this issue, and it does look like the administrative guidelines have language that addresses this. And so I don't think that it's going to change the intent of the policy, because the policy should be broad and we let the guidelines kind of figure out the details. And it says, I was looking earlier, and it says under the administrative guidelines A2 B, the last sentence is all other PWCD should be securely stored in the student's locker or backpack and not on the student's person. So there is language paralleling that in the guidelines. So
But that's only students grade 7 through 12. Not as a whole.
well, I guess
Again,
I think I'm okay with it because the language is there, and I don't think that it changes the intent of the policy. Perhaps makes it a little clearer. That's all.
Ms. Chonin, the administrative guidelines are not finalized, correct?
That is correct.
Right.
And so if it was taken out of the policy, yes, it would be moved to the guidelines, because we did have significant discussion about that in policy committee.
Perfect.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All right, so Katie, please call the roll on the amendment.
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. So now we have a new policy, an amended policy in front of us to vote on. And let me see here, we don't have to get them, it's already been put on the floor, so we can go right to a vote. Discussion, I guess it's on the floor, so yeah. Any further discussion on the approval of policy 771? Heather, go ahead.
I just have a couple comments, and bear with me because you've all heard this from me a lot over the last 6 months. but I'm going to try and succinctly share my thoughts. And Katie, if I go over 3 minutes, we'll play public comment. You can raise a card at me. But I just want to start, as always, with the positive. I do think this is a good first step. It's good for students and learning. It's an improvement for teachers and staff, I hope. That's the intent. And it's a bonus that we're ahead of the state legislature, however that ends up being. The board, the administration, the amount of research that we've undertaken, read through, sifted, Mary summarized, is really incredible, and that's always been what guided our this decision. It is in line with feedback and data received from the teachers and the community as a first step. So I do hope that this limits the distractions and helps increase academic achievement. This is all in service of students and what we're doing. I also hope that it allows teachers to do less of the policing because of the designated location element, but I am really pleased that Dr. Lakuta has put in, the next step to review, because that's important to me to know if that's important to us to know if that's creating additional hardships or if it's working, right? I know people have given feedback at listening sessions and via email and through staff surveys and feedback forms, and attended committee meetings and spoke during public comment. I heard all of you. I am proud of this policy as a first step, but I hear the desire for more, and I do share that sentiment. So I'm really excited to look at what happens in December. Not only is it working, but also for me, Ms. Wright shared the same as the OMS lunch and OHS wrap. And wrap, as we talked about, is a study hall, and no matter earned or not, is not the place for phones. It's an academic hour at a school. And then for me, there's too much data on mental health, connection to bullying, and student connection and community to have phones be a part of lunch at middle school. I'm hopeful that as this becomes the cultural norm, that we're continuing K through 6, having it off and away all day. This will not be a dramatic shift for 7, 8. There's 2 years that these kiddos are there. And hopefully that can be a time that we can transition to phones not being off or not being allowed at lunch. I will say I know that there are logistical issues and a scarcity of resources. We talked about that at length, both at OMS lunch and RAP. I think RAP has 300 kids or multiple hundreds of kids in a commons area. And so I understand that as well as OMS lunch, creates logistical issues. I also know that OSD can and does do hard things on a regular basis in service of our kids and families in the community. And it does take things like a new playground at OMS that kids want to play on, or, other resources, so it isn't just taking away phones per a policy, and that's because the policy says so. My last comment is that this also happens outside the schools, and while OSD is definitely a big part of this community and kind of in charge of, I don't want to say in charge of, a big part of children's education, it does take parents who want stronger policies. I do too, in case that's not clear. And it is important for us to continue to follow that research and do the work in our community and find those groups of parents who are the meanest parents ever and won't give their kids cell phones, because the more that we can do that, the easier the lift is on the school district and on the kids as well. And maybe my son, who's in 6th grade and swears that he is one of 4 children in the classroom that doesn't have phones, maybe that will be 50% if we can continue on and follow this research. So that was way more than 3 minutes, but for now I'm going to support this policy because of the thing that Dr. Lakuta, because of the part of that we're going to be reviewing this again in December, and I will step off my soapbox.
Leslie, I think you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, ditto to everything she said except her last sentence, because I cannot, and I'm on policy committee, so it was a lot of work to get here. I think we did a really good job. I think we really dove into the data. We really, really looked hard at this and trying to get where we need to be, but I just don't think this goes far enough. So I'm going to be voting no, only because I really feel like we're doing a disservice to our middle schoolers, and that's all.
Caleb?
So I am supportive of the policy. And it's not perfect. but no policy is ever perfect. I think there's a saying about, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I don't want that to happen here. But I trust that this came out of the policy committee, and I know the amount of work that went into it, and that it's a very positive first step. And I would agree with everything that has been said. I especially want to make sure that we are checking on the implementation of this policy in the coming academic year, and we're getting feedback and seeing if it's working or not. And if it's working, great. If it's not working, I do think we have to be prepared to take further steps. I think the biggest thing that I think we have to be conscientious of is just making sure that we're trying to put, with the world of social media and everything else that's going on in kids' lives, that we're trying to carve out a space for them where they can focus on school and not be distracted. It's very hard to do. There's lots of things that make it difficult for us to do that, but I feel like this is a good first step. I just want to say one other thing, it was something was said earlier that all of the research shows that the device. I think it's unfair to say all research shows. Perhaps most, but there are. There's not a 100% agreement, right? That the kinds of things that are being done are necessarily the things that should be done as far as phones and those kinds of things, because there are kids out there that I think we need to be cognizant of and make sure that we're doing right by those kids who maybe that their social world is focused outside of the bounds of their school for lots of different reasons. And I understand, right? I'm not saying that I don't want to go backwards on this, but I just want to make sure that we're also thinking of the needs of those kids and those students and trying to carve out space for them in this policy. But again, like I said, I do want to make sure that we're revisiting this in the coming year because it is a good first step. I think it's a good policy. It's an improvement. It's not perfect, but that's just the nature of the thing. We have to, I think, move forward.
Anna, anything? Mary?
No, I'll just say thank you for everyone's comments and everyone's time on this. It has been a huge lift by the entire admin team as well as the board. A lot of good conversations, a lot of very important thoughts, and I do think we are moving in the right direction, and I appreciate everybody's work.
Heather, go ahead.
Oh, I had my microphone on. Crap. Just a point of clarification. I may be missing it, but we don't say when this policy would be in place. So just want to make sure we're all voting on the same.
Yes. So my recommendation would be July 1 because we have significant, I would say probably September 1, actually I forget summer school. We have significant engagement to do with our staff as well as our students. I think we all know working with children that when students understand the why, that it's much easier to, I don't want to say enforcement, but really partner with them, right, in achieving the goal. And also we need some time to order caddies for staff and determine where we're going to hang them and all of those things. So I would recommend September 2nd, I think is the first day of school next year.
Gina, do we need to put that into some kind of formal motion, or can that be a friendly amendment?
I think a motion to that effect would be helpful.
Can that come from policy?
It cannot.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure it was going on. I would move that this policy, if approved, begins September 2nd of 2025.
Okay, motion by Leslie. Is there a second? Second by Heather. So let's vote on
If
that
we have a
amendment.
motion on the floor, though, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order person, but is this a procedural snafu? Like, do we need to rule on the current motion before we put another motion forward?
I was looking at it as a motion to amend, but we can pass it and then put the effect date. So no, but you're right. Thank you, Dr. Bush.
I was looking at it as a motion to amend as well.
Okay, we'll make it a motion to amend, not a motion separate.
Okay, so where are we at? We have a motion to amend. And Heather is seconding the motion. So let's do roll call on the fourth amendment.
September 2nd, 2025.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Now, we have a fourth revised policy on the table.
I do have a question, point of order. Do we need to retire 441 as of September 1st as well?
I think that's fine because everything in 441 is in 771 already. So we're fine.
So I guess the way I'm understanding it, we aren't changing the current 771 policy until September 2nd, right? So this current policy stays in place through summer. Then this policy that we will be voting on, if it's passed, would take effect then. Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Caleb.
I have one other comment, and I will be brief. And I should really make notes of what I want to say when I speak. And my wife would, hey, not nice. No, I was going to say that I do think the one last thing I want to say is that I want to make sure that we also pay attention to feedback from teachers in the coming year, because they're going to be the ones that see this policy implementation. And if we get feedback, right, that one way or the other, but I just want to, the thing that I'm concerned about as a teacher myself, although at a different level, is that it is very, very hard to police cell phone usage unless there's consistency across the board. And I think that this is a step towards that consistency. But I think the teachers are going to be able to give us a lot of insight into how this policy is being implemented and whether it's being effective enough or not. And so that's the last thing I wanted to say, is just that we are cognizant of that and try to take the burden off teachers as much as possible, because it's a huge challenge.
Any final thoughts? All right. Katie, please call the roll on this is the motion to approve the amended policy 771.
Dr. Lakuda?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
No.
Mr. Pankratz?
No. Motion carries 4-2. We have an amended policy 771 effective September 2nd. Thank you all for working through that. And then we, as was stated, we'll revisit that policy or the effectiveness of this policy in December. And I think you all are testing me in my role as chairing this board. All right, let's move to action item C3, membership and dissolution of interagency agreement, Dane County School Consortium. Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. For those of you who are not familiar, the Dane County School Consortium coordinates the Youth Apprenticeship Program, which is a series of state and federal grants, and they do that for about 16 districts within the Dane County area. And because we are seeking a fiscal agent, meaning a district to serve as the fiscal agent, we have not been able to find one, even though it has been many months. So given that, the districts are seeking from their school boards permission to withdraw from the consortium, and that date would be effective at the end of the fiscal year. So the first effective date of withdrawal would be July 1st, 2025. And this, it's very important to note that withdrawal from the consortium, and the vast majority of districts have already made this decision, but the decision to withdraw does not mean the end for the Youth Apprenticeship Program. We will continue to maintain the exact same program. It will be, the financial component will run through the Workforce Development Board of South Central Wisconsin, and our very capable school and technical education coordinator Anna D'Amelio. She will be coordinating the placements, and all of the CTE professionals in the districts that were formerly members of the consortium, they will be working together to ensure that the workload that will be new to our CTE people will be something that they'll collaborate on. I think there will be certainly some pieces that will be more challenging without a consortium. However, I think actually more of the youth apprenticeship funding will come directly to us to be used at Ms. D'Amelio's and next year, of course, Ms. Zawicki's discretion for the youth apprenticeship program. So given that, what I'm seeking tonight is I would like to recommend the board make a motion to authorize the OSD superintendent to withdraw from the Dane County Schools Consortium on July 1st, 2025, and to allow me, in the event that the consortium needs to dissolve, which would make sense if all of the members have withdrawn, it would be important then to also dissolve it, because when you choose to dissolve the consortium, the funding would go back to the appropriate school district. So I'm seeking authority to withdraw and to cast a vote for dissolution, should that be necessary.
Okay, motion by Heather. Is there a second? Second by Leslie. Any discussion or clarifying questions? Go ahead, Leslie.
Leslie, can you tell me, other than the youth apprenticeship piece, what did the consortium, what did they bring to the table that was different? I mean, it's clearly, it's not going to change because 13 of however many, 13, was it 16? 16 schools have already dissolved. But I'm just curious, what other pieces might we be missing that this encompassed?
Absolutely, because they did very excellent work. So I have no intention at all to act as if the dissolution of the consortium will have no impact. I think it will have an impact, but I think what it'll do is it'll put more of the placement, paperwork, and organization on our CTE coordinators throughout the area. So Ms. D'Amelio and I have been speaking about this quite a bit over the last couple of months, and we have a system in place for next year to monitor the impact on her position and what we can potentially shift to our wonderful administrative assistant who works with her, because Ms. D'Amelio has said that as she is learning this role, she hasn't potentially given the admin assistant many of the things to do, and I think now that she's found her footing, she'll be able to divert and delegate. So what we're hoping, and we'll be meeting monthly to monitor this, is that she'll find a really solid footing. So it's the placement that is critical, the paperwork coordination, obviously taking care of the financial aspect, meaning the money in, the money out, but Workforce Development Board will be working on that with us. And then, of course, there was a lovely end-of-the-year banquet and all kinds of positive things for the youth apprenticeship program that I think districts will probably take on as internal projects, or perhaps the CTE people will work together to create something larger for the area.
Thank you.
Mary.
Thank you. So, as I understand it, the DCSC, they were obviously involved in the finance and monitoring the finance, but they also were identifying opportunities, right? Yes. And so, can you reassure me? I mean, because they had a staff of 9 people, and so it makes it easier for them to go out and identify opportunities for our learners. And how can we make sure that we aren't missing opportunities?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. We do have some very great longtime partners that we will continue to work with. And the CTE coordinators from around the area are also going to be supporting one another in the sense that if you have a major youth apprenticeship employer in your area, you might end up becoming the go-to communication person for that particular piece. In order to alleviate any of our partners having to speak with 16 different districts for placement placement issues. We don't want to make it harder to be a partner. We want to ensure that people feel like we are doing what we need to do and the support is there. As far as cultivation of new partnerships, that is part of the collaboration that the CTE coordinators will continue to do. They will meet on a monthly basis with one another to share the pool of knowledge and to share the opportunities.
So it almost sounds like the consortium is just shifting its mission, really?
I'd say it's shifting a little bit of the responsibility to the CTE person as opposed to the consortium itself.
Okay, all right. This was all volunteer, we don't pay a fee, is that right?
That's correct. Other than there's an administration fee for the consortium to do the good work that they did.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other discussion? Okay. Katie, please call the roll.
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright? Yes. Ms. Bijak? Yes. Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. All right, where are we? Oh, number C4, health and dental insurance rates for 25-26. Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. This is actually definitely the collaboration of Mr. Weiland and Ms. Jonan, the good work that they do to ensure that we have what we need related to health and dental. So I'm going to pass this on to her.
Thank you, and I will try to channel the excitement of Mr. Weiland because working with him in an hour meeting with actuarials on dental rates and seeing the interest level that he has is pretty awesome. So I will try to channel that tonight. I told him I'd do my best. So we are seeking a motion tonight to approve a 4% increase in dental rates. And just to give you a picture of that, just wanted to remind everyone that we have a 4-year contract with GHC at a 4.5% cap. Very grateful to have that agreement. When we meet as HR directors every month, other school districts are seeing double-digit increases in their estimates. So really grateful for that. We've been doing a significant push to work on wellness and preventative care with GHC, and we hope that we are trending in the positive direction because next year our rate increase will be 4%. So we're coming in under the cap. So that was really great news to receive from them last week. So because of that, our plan design will remain the same for next year. So that means deductibles and copays will stay the same. We will start planning in fall for the next year because that means we have to go out for a bid. And so when we do that, we do have an insurance committee made up of staff that are interested in participating with us to see what changes, if any, we can make to keep our healthcare costs affordable. So we'll be starting that process in the fall, but we do have that stability through the end of 2026, which is great. So then when we get to dental, so to remind everyone, we are self-funded for our dental plan. Delta Dental is our third-party administrator. And so this last school year, in an effort to focus on the wellness, we added what's called Checkup Plus. And what that means is your preventative care is included or not counted against your $2,000 annual max. And really the goal there was when we took a look at our population, we weren't on track for our cleanings in terms of the percentage of people going compared to other public school employees. And so if you look at the research on that, there is a significant link between dental care and overall health, including your cardiac health, which is interesting. So we did do that, and it worked. So we've had a lot of employees take advantage of that, which is wonderful. But it did dip into our reserves a little bit. And so you'll see we haven't increased dental rates since 2016 because we've had such healthy reserves. And so now our actuaries feel that it is time to increase. I will say Mr. Wallen wanted us to be sure to tell you they did recommend almost a 13% increase, but in working with our consultants, that there is an increase when you add a new benefit. They have a word for it that I don't recall, but so they think that because we added that benefit, there's a significant increase, but then that will level off. So we feel really comfortable with increasing 4% and then monitoring where we are next year. It's a pretty insignificant, well, it's a small increase for our staff. With the district paying 90%, it's more of an increase for the district. And so we feel like this is a good first step, and then come back and monitor for next year. And then also one of the things that they recommended that we change is that we only cover one bite wing x-ray per year instead of two. And they said that'll save us 0.5%, if not 1%. And when we looked, the American Dental Association only recommends one per year anyway. So hoping that will not be a significant impact to our membership. So with that, I would ask for a motion to approve a 4% rate increase for dental insurance for the 25-26 school year, and that would be effective July 1st.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Leslie and a second by Mary. Any discussion? Let's start with you, Anna.
I just have a clarifying question. So did I hear correctly that the actual increase is 13%, but we're only increasing the employee portion by 4%? Or I'm sorry, I got caught up in a 13. There was a recommendation for 13%, but we're only doing 4. So can you?
Yes, so I should have explained that better. So when we meet with our actuaries, they want to keep our reserves at a certain level, similar to our fund balance. And so they said to keep it at the same level, they would recommend a 13% increase. But in talking with our insurance consultants and looking at our reserve levels, that one, we think there was a spike in demand because we added that benefit, and our consultants in their experience feel that that will level off. And then also looking at our reserves, we don't feel that we need to keep our reserves at the same level, that even if they dip a little bit, they're still really healthy. And so we feel very comfortable just recommending a 4% and then monitoring this year, and then coming back with a recommendation for 26-27, depending on what those reserves look like. But our dental plan is very, very healthy. One of the things that helps a dental plan is you have that $2,000 annual max per member, so you know what your maximum exposure is every year. Health insurance, you have the Affordable Care Act cap, but it's obviously significantly higher. So we feel really, really confident that this will be enough of an increase. And then we'll take a look next spring and then come back with a recommendation for the next year.
Heather.
I just wanted to thank Andy, who's not here, but also Gina. And I know you said this, but I just want to give a big shout out because here at Embrace Positive, that it's such a wonderful thing that you implemented that 4-year contract, I guess 3 years ago, right? Because we've benefited from having that 4.5% rate increase cap each year. And especially I think you said that people are having double-digit increases. I know we hear about it at my place of employment as well. And so that was just really excellent financial planning and making the most of resources that we all know are scarce.
Gina, go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I know it was not easy for our staff to switch. And so it is at least comforting to know that financially it was a very good decision that the board approved 3 years ago. And I'm very grateful for that and grateful for employees in GHC for working with us. We continue to iron out some kinks, but we are in a definitely better financial place having done that 4-year contract. So thank you.
Gina, have we held the employee contributions the same through those 3 years for health insurance?
In terms of, we have consistently had the board contribution be 90% and the employee contribution be 10%, but that was 10% of the increasing rates.
Mm-hmm. So, but what's in front of us today, is it the same, that it's still that 10%, or is that fixed at the dollar amount that's in the purple here?
So the health insurance rates, that is an increase from last year. So every year they do increase, and then the board pays 90% of the increase and the employee pays 10% of the increase. So the employee share does go up.
Yep, 4%. Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions? Mary, go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to confirm that the Checkup Plus will continue.
Yes, we do plan to continue that because we really want people to do those preventative cleanings.
Thank you. That's it.
Caleb?
I just have a question for edification, I guess, for me. Is the dental coverage, is this the only dental coverage that's offered to employees, or is there a supplemental dental? Because I know the state, like some of the state, the university system offers a supplemental plan. I was just curious if something like that exists separate from this.
We do not. Most dental plans have a $1,000 maximum per member, and we have a $2,000 max per member. Our ortho max is $2,500, and I'm getting the data on that now, but I was told anecdotally that most districts are $1,500, so we don't offer a supplemental. We have talked about that in terms of employee paid, like Aflac, things like that, where employees can pay 100% and get a supplement. When we looked at it 2 weeks ago, I believe only 0.5% of our members hit their maximum. So I didn't feel like it was necessary, but that is something that we talk about with our consultants every year.
Any other discussion? All right, Katie, please call the roll.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. We have a new health and dental insurance rate for 25-26. All right, moving on to discussion items. Vision Steering Committee, Heather.
Yes, our next meeting is scheduled for April 16th.
All right, policy, Mary.
Well, you all heard the outcome of the 13th of March meeting. On April 10th is the next policy committee meeting where we will meet in the district office.
All right, thank you. Next up is informational items, starting with visioning and strategic planning. Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you, everybody. As you have noticed, our screen over here is the only one that will show you our slides for tonight that, of course, include the superintendent's report, too. So if you can find a way to comfortably take a look at that screen, I suggest you do. Anytime we're talking about visioning and strategic planning, we pull up our general strategy overview. And a lot of what we'll be talking about next is connected to our annual goals and action plans. These are things that our Readiness for Learning framework, for example, are some of the things that we do in order to ensure we are doing the most possible to reach our student goals related to their achievement and to their well-being. And we know that Readiness for Learning is a significant part of that. And you can see here on this particular graphic, the original initiatives proposed, which are the orange ones on the top, included focused and engaged learning. And then we're talking about phone distraction. You accomplished quite a bit with that this evening. And high quality collaborative teaching, which is making sure that educators have dedicated time to collaborate in PLCs, which is a proven way to increase student achievement. So these really are strategies that are in support of the broader goals. Anyway, we're helping students be ready for learning. Now, the thing about that is we have to be able to do that with our community. These are not things, nothing in the Readiness for Learning framework is something that we can do without the partnership of our community. And we really do believe in working together. And I think how we've approached the Readiness for Learning framework is another example of this. We had 2 in-person sessions, a virtual session, a really well-attended screening of screenagers. We have the feedback form on the website, and of course the board members and the administration can continue to monitor all of the feedback that comes in on that form. And then recently, because of the feedback that we have been receiving either through the feedback form or through the engagement sessions, we did start to investigate an alternative option to our student late start proposal, and that was potentially a student early release. And so that's really what we're doing right now. We have sent a survey out on Friday to all of our families. Right before I came here, I think we were about 840 responses. So that's a really significant response rate already. Really happy to see that. And the survey is open until noon on Monday, April 7th, right after spring break. So that gives people an opportunity to really tell us what's important to them. And then, of course, all of that information will be shared with the administrative team and the board prior to the policy committee on April 10th, so that our board members have all the information they need to make a good next step decision. Yes, please.
Thank you for sharing the numbers of the people who returned the survey. That's one per child in the district, right? So
it's one per household because some
No, one per child.
But some children have two households, so
Got it.
We want parents to be able to answer for them.
Got it.
Because they might have different needs.
Yep, no, perfect. I just want to clarify that. And will there be, given that spring break is upon us, will there be a reminder email that's going out for this survey just in case people missed the first one?
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. All right. And now the fun stuff, everybody. Because this is always the fun stuff, and that is the superintendent's report. So what you're seeing up here, 4K registration is open. So if you have a child who will be 4 years old on or before September 1st, 2025, they're eligible to register for our 4K community-based program for the upcoming school year. And you can go to our website to get all the information you need. So that's OregonSD.org/enroll4K. And then for 25-26, we have a kindergarten informational meeting. And that is on Thursday, April 17th at 6 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center at the high school. This is to all families with students who will be enrolling in kindergarten in the upcoming school year. So you learn about life in kindergarten, you interact with the panel of experts, which are our wonderful principals. You receive a lot of information and resources, and you get your questions answered. This is a really big deal, particularly if it's the first child in your family going to kindergarten. And we have free childcare available for children 3 and older who are fully potty trained, or in a diaper because it's a short amount of time. So check your email for details and to sign up, and Lindsay Engelhardt, our 4K coordinator, will be able to answer your questions. And then look at this fun thing. The students at Sun Prairie earned a glow dance party. You really have to see it in color. Like on my black and white notes here, not nearly as impressive as when you see it in color. But they had a glow dance party for demonstrating safe, respectful, and responsible behaviors all month. And students worked really hard and were able to enjoy 20 minutes in the cafeteria dancing and listening to fun music with their glow sticks. And then our Netherwood students participated in a soccer mascot contest. So they had an amazing time doing this for the Madison Forward Soccer Mascot Contest. A huge thank you to our guest speaker, TJ, for sharing this exciting opportunity with the students. That would be really fun if one of our students designed the new mascot. That would be great. And then students in the Heritage program, Heritage Spanish program, teamed up with Mariposa Learning Center to create really stunning traditional Latino artwork celebrating the beauty and richness of the many cultures through creativity and collaboration. They brought these vibrant pieces to life that honored their heritage and their community. So don't miss the chance to see these incredible works on display during Multicultural Week at OHS. Speaking of art, it's National Youth Art Month. And masterpieces from our own OSD students at kindergarten through grade 6 are all around the town. They're in the Firefly Coffee House, Kickback Cafe, the Oregon Public Library. Our students are so talented, and I'm sure they would love it if you saw their art and were able to comment on it with them. So thanks so much to our art educators for creating these great learning experiences. It's really exciting to be able to see student artwork in the community. And similar to what Lee shared earlier, congratulations to all students in grades 6 through 12 who participated in this year's annual Wisconsin School Music Association Solo and Ensemble Festival. So they had opportunities to learn the discipline of rehearsal. It challenges them to advance their musical skills and allows them to perform in front of an audience and adjudicator and other students' feedback on their performance as well. So as I'm listing this off, this is really like all the other amazing learning experiences, right? The benefit of practice, the benefit of collaboration, the benefit of feedback. It's an amazing academic experience. And we're really proud of our student musicians. We love hearing their music and watching them perform. So congratulations to all of them. We also had a regional math meet, so you can see our Forest Edge and Rome Corners and middle school students who participated. So congratulations to our 5th and 6th grade team and our 7th and 8th grade team, who will be going on to compete in the Mega Math Meet in May. I had to slow down and make sure I could say that. That's a fantastic accomplishment. Great job, you guys. Oh, and then I almost forgot about our high school German club breakfast. You can see our smiling kids there eating breakfast. So they started the morning with their traditional breakfast, or, oh, I hope this is right, Frau Wolenschensky, Frühstück, meaning breakfast, or Brotchen, meaning bread. And did I say that right? And all the fixings made a perfect start to the day. This beloved event, they have this twice a school year, and this is super popular. Look at how many happy kids there are going to school early for German Club breakfast. I love it. And similar to what we spoke about earlier this evening, we have the Youth Apprenticeship Spotlight. Our first one is Anthony. He works at the HVAC Youth Apprenticeship at 1901. So courses that have led up to this capstone experience include metal technology, welding, construction exploration, wood manufacturing, advanced wood manufacturing, auto technology 1, and foundations of technology and engineering. That's really impressive. Anthony also has certifications in OSHA 10, First Aid, WCA Saw Blade, and WCA Core. And then, now we have Lindsay, and Lindsay's got a giant shovel because Lindsay is working as a vet tech assistant at UW Veterinary Hospital Large Animal. So courses that have led up to this experience include pet care and vet science, biology 1 and 2, horse and animal science, animals, plants, and you, and natural resources. Lindsay's also in FFA. So sophomores or juniors, if you're interested in the youth apprenticeship options, contact your counselor or Ms. D'Amelio, our school to career coordinator. And then speaking of FFA, congratulations to Mackenzie Milestone, who won the Section 5 Leadership Development event in the discussion meet earlier this month. Mackenzie will go on to represent our section in the state competition occurring at the State FFA Convention in June. We're super proud of you. And of course, we also have students who are officers in statewide FFA and have invited some of us to come to the convention and listen to their presentations. And they just do such a good job, and we're really proud of the work they do. And speaking of good work, the high school construction class spent time this week giving back to the community at the Oregon Food Pantry. The students installed new cabinets and countertops at the pantry. So good job, everybody. Nice work, team. And then our school nutrition team, this looked really good. Students across the OSD who eat school lunch were recently treated to a special lunch option of homemade shepherd's pie. This was a tremendous hit. So a huge thank you to our incredible school nutrition team for thinking up new ways to have nutritious and tasty meals. So thanks very much for all of your dedication. And that's all we have tonight.
Thank you. All right, closing, we have our next meeting will be April 14th, which will be President Flanagan's last meeting of her tenure, 9-year tenure here at Oregon School District. So it'll be a very special night. We'll go to checkout. Heather, anything?
Sure. I have two things. One, I just wanted to say thank you. I assume district-wide, but Forest Edge had their conferences last week, student-led conferences. It's such an amazing thing to, flip it and have the students lead that. No doubt a huge lift by the teachers, not only homeroom teachers, but also all of the rotation teachers who are there 2 nights, into the evening, but just really enjoyed being part of that and grateful that we have such wonderful educators. And then my second thing is I just wanted to clarify, no, this is a comment, not a question, as we look forward to further reviewing the staffing plans, that there have not been and currently aren't any cuts to the plan to music. So that's just one comment that I wanted to share so that we're making sure that we're all on the same page.
Mary.
I just wanted to say kudos to the FES PTO. I had a great time last Thursday. Talking to students about their science fair projects. It was so much fun. I learned about sunken ships and pulleys, mechanical advantage, primary colors. It was marvelous. I mean, I also was put through the paces. I had to figure out 3 different ciphers in order to solve the mystery. So it was a really nice evening. Thank you.
Leslie, anything?
So on the heels of Mary, first of all, who better to solve 3 ciphers, right? I mean, that's awesome. But just thank you, because as I was a very, very small part of that planning committee, thank you to everyone community-wide who volunteered to be inspectors. Thank you, Mary. Troy, you were there. Leslie, I'm going to forget somebody, so I'm just going to stop saying names because I will completely forget them. So just thank you so much for that. And then I just wanted to touch on how exciting when you can tell it's spring. I was here on Saturday at the high school, and there was so much going on. I was here for the regionals for our youth wrestling program, and so my boys were in the regionals for that. But as I sat there serving the club by being at the missions table for a while, there was the wrestling. Then there was a dance competition on the other end of the thing. Then there was basketball. Then there was a robotics, and there was lacrosse photos, and I think I'm missing something. So, oh my goodness, this is a hopping place. So it's awesome that we are able to serve our community that way, and that so many people come back and work together with us. So it was really exciting to see that.
Caleb, anything? No. Anna? All right, nothing from me tonight. Thanks for being kind and working with me in this chair. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Caleb. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:01. Thank you, everyone.